You've felt it before, that strange shift in your gut when someone smiles at you. They nod, say they're proud of you, maybe even clap, but deep inside something tightens. You can't point to anything specific. There's no insult, no argument, no obvious betrayal. Still, something doesn't feel right. Their applause seems empty. Their laugh doesn't sound real. And right before they celebrate your achievement, there's a tiny pause, a flicker of something else. Most people brush it off, call it overthinking. But that feeling, that's your intuition screaming. Carl Jung had a name for this. He called it the shadow, the hidden part of people that they won't admit exists. It's not in their words. It hides behind polite gestures and forced smiles. It pretends to root for you but feels something else entirely. Jealousy, resentment, quiet bitterness. These emotions don't show up as screams. They whisper, they linger, and worst of all, they hide behind love. That's why they're so dangerous. You don't see them coming. They smile while draining your spirit. And if you keep ignoring those gut instincts, you'll slowly start to break, mentally, emotionally, even physically. This isn't about people who mildly dislike you. It's about those who mask deeper feelings, who say they care but deep down don't want to see you rise. The signs are there. The patterns are subtle but powerful. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. Ever had someone joke at your expense, then say you're too sensitive when it hurts? They brush it off as humor, but you feel the sting. Over time, those jokes start to sound less like teasing and more like tiny knives. They always hit your insecurities, your background, your mistakes, your appearance. Everyone else laughs, but you feel exposed. And when you finally push back, they play innocent. Chill, I was just joking. But it's not a joke if it leaves scars. It's not humor if it chips away at your confidence. What they're doing is hiding contempt behind comedy. It's a mind game. They want the crowd to laugh with them while making you feel small. And you can't fight back without looking like the one who can't take a joke. That's how they win, by making their emotional attacks look like entertainment. The truth is, they're not laughing with you. They're laughing at you. And everyone else doesn't notice because it's all masked with charm and timing. You leave feeling alone, embarrassed, wondering if you overreacted. But no, you didn't. You just became a target of someone who doesn't know how to deal with their own bitterness, so they project it onto you, disguised as fun. Now think about this. How often has someone you trust forgotten to support you? They missed your big day, they gave advice that set you back. They said they'd show up but didn't. The first time you forgive it, life happens. But when it keeps happening, the pattern becomes clear. It's not forgetfulness, it's sabotage dressed as forgetfulness. The worst kind of betrayal isn't loud, it's quiet. It pretends to care while pulling you backward. And then it hides behind phrases like, I was just trying to help. But real help doesn't leave you doubting yourself. Real support doesn't disappear when it matters most. This is what it looks like when someone close to you wants to keep you small. They won't say it out loud, but your growth threatens their comfort. Every step forward you take reminds them of how stuck they are. So instead of cheering you on, they subtly hold you back. It's not always out of cruelty, it's fear. But that fear becomes control. And that control chips away at your momentum until you start shrinking yourself just to avoid friction. That's not love. That's fear wearing a friendly mask. Ever share something you're proud of only to have someone immediately turn the conversation back to themselves? You get a promotion. They interrupt with their own announcement. You win something. They talk about how they did it better. You wanted a moment, but suddenly it's all about them. You didn't ask for competition, but you're in one. Every win you share becomes a comparison contest. And you start to notice your joy always triggers their need to top it. They don't yell, they don't argue, but the pattern is loud. Your success unsettles them. Not because they want to beat you, but because it reminds them they haven't moved. You shining makes them feel dimmer, so instead of celebrating, they try to outshine. They make it about them, every single time. And you leave those conversations not energized, but drained. That's not normal. That's not friendship. That's a race you never entered, but they refuse to leave. Then there's the kind of support that looks good on the outside. The nice words, the compliments, the smiles. I'm so happy for you. You're doing great. It all sounds perfect. But when you look a little deeper, it feels empty. Their eyes don't light up. Their voice lacks warmth. Their presence disappears when you actually need them. They're around, but only when it's convenient. They say all the right things, but your heart isn't fooled. It feels the gap between their words and their energy. Real support doesn't need to be loud, but it's always present. It shows up when you're down. It dances with you when you win. And most importantly, it feels real. Fake kindness, on the other hand, is like a voicemail, automated, detached, and lifeless. Some people aren't malicious, but they're so emotionally disconnected they've forgotten how to connect. Their version of care is robotic, transactional, not because they hate you, but because they've numbed themselves to real emotion. Being around them feels like talking to a mirror that doesn't reflect you. You walk away feeling more alone than before. But sometimes, the most dangerous kind of manipulation comes disguised as care. I just don't want you to get hurt. This is for your own good. It sounds thoughtful. It sounds loving, but it makes you feel small, like your dreams are foolish, like you need to check with them before doing anything bold. You begin to doubt your own judgment. That's not guidance. That's control. Real support believes in you even if you fail. But this type of care wants you to stay where you are, not because it's safe for you, but because it's safe for them. You growing means they lose control, so they slowly, gently plant doubts. They don't scream. They don't stop you outright, but over time you stop trusting yourself. That's how they win, not by force but by wearing you down, making you believe their way is the only way. Carl Jung once said that those who can't control their inner chaos often try to control others. If someone's life feels like it's falling apart, they'll try to create structure by managing you. It's not love, it's fear, and fear will always try to shrink what it can't handle. So if someone constantly questions your decisions, undermines your plans, or wants you to pause for their approval, that's not protection. That's possession. The difference, one sets you free. The other builds a cage with good intentions. You might have also noticed how people talk about you when you're not around, or at least you feel it. You walk into a room and something's off. The vibe changes. Eyes dart, conversations stop. Nobody says anything but the silence is loud. That's how gossip moves. It doesn't scream. It slithers. It twists facts just enough to spark doubt. It doesn't attack your choices, it attacks your character. Quietly, strategically. And the worst part, you'll probably never hear the full story. Why do people do this? Because confronting you would mean confronting themselves. And most people can't handle their own reflection. So they talk. They twist. They turn others against you so they don't have to face you. And they do it with a smile. Because keeping up the image is everything. But deep down, it's not about you, it's about them. Your light unsettles them. Your presence reveals their absence. Your peace exposes their chaos. So they chip away at your reputation, thinking it will make them feel better. But it doesn't, and it never will. Because gossip says more about the person spreading it than the person it targets. People who are at peace don't need to damage others to feel worthy. They lift others because they've already lifted themselves. But the ones who haven't, they'll drag you down just to feel taller. What you feel in those moments isn't paranoia. It's ancient, intuitive, human. It's your body alerting you that something's not right. Long before we had words, we had instincts. And that quiet discomfort you feel around certain people, that's survival kicking in. It's not imaginary. It's information. There's a moment when you share something good, maybe a new job, a creative win, a small step forward, and someone you care about barely reacts. No smile, no excitement, just a blank look or a short, lukewarm cool. And that silence, it says more than words ever could. You feel the void. You feel the air get colder. Not because you wanted praise or a parade. You just wanted them to feel the joy with you. But they don't. In fact, they seem even more distant. You replay it in your head, trying to make sense of their flat tone, their averted eyes, the way they changed the subject so fast. These are the people who were by your side when you were struggling. When you were down, they were present, supportive, helpful even. But now that you're up, now that you've started to rise, they're nowhere to be found emotionally. Why? Because your growth became the problem. As long as you were stuck, they felt close to you. Your pain made them feel needed. But now, your progress reminds them of everything they're not doing. Every step you take forward shines a light on their own stagnation. And instead of celebrating with you, they silently resent you. They won't admit it. Maybe they don't even realize it fully, but it shows. In their energy, in their absence, in the way their words don't match their eyes. They can't clap for you, not because you don't deserve it, but because they can't handle what your success reflects back at them. You didn't change. You just moved. And that movement pulled you out of a space they were comfortable with. They were fine as long as you stayed in the same emotional place. But the moment you broke free, you became a mirror they couldn't look into anymore. They retreat not because you left them behind, but because they didn't move with you. It's heartbreaking but real, and it happens more than we want to believe. You'll start noticing that it's not always what people say that reveals the truth. It's how they move, how they show up, how they react when your light shines. And one of the clearest indicators, body language. The body never lies. Someone might say, "I'm proud of you," but the smile doesn't reach their eyes. They clap a second too late. Their shoulders are tight. Their tone sounds rehearsed. They hug you, but there's no warmth. Their eyes dart away when you talk about your success, and you feel it not in your head but in your body. Something just feels off. Your mind might try to justify it. They're tired, maybe they're just stressed, but your intuition already knows, because before we had words we had instincts. Humans are hardwired to read these microsignals: tension in the jaw, the slight turn of a shoulder, shallow breathing, forced laughter. Your brain might miss it, but your body doesn't. When someone feels envy, insecurity, or resentment around you, their nervous system reacts. It's involuntary. They might say all the right things, but their body will betray them. And if you're sensitive enough, if you've learned to trust that gut feeling, you'll catch it. Not with logic, but with awareness. The room gets heavier. The vibe gets colder. You walk away feeling drained, confused, sometimes even guilty, for no reason you can explain. That's the body telling you you're not safe here, and you need to listen. Most people don't. They ignore that signal, because we've been taught to be polite, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to keep peace even when our instincts scream. But ignoring your intuition doesn't protect the relationship. It only prolongs your pain. When words say friend but energy says threat, that's not overthinking. That's perception. And perception is survival. You don't need to wait for proof. Your body already gave you the truth. So what do you do with all this? How do you handle it once you realize that someone close to you, someone who smiles at your wins and nods at your dreams, doesn't actually want you to win? You don't need to confront them. You don't need to accuse or create drama. You don't even need to make them the villain. That's not your job. Your only job is to protect your peace, because peace is expensive, and some people are constantly trying to steal it without you noticing. You don't owe anyone your energy, your time, your vulnerability, especially if every interaction leaves you second-guessing yourself. The moment you start dimming your light just to make someone else comfortable, you've already given too much. Start setting boundaries. Stop over-explaining yourself. Stop hoping they'll change. Stop waiting for the applause that never comes. Stop pouring into people who only offer you shadows in return. It's hard, especially when you've shared history, laughter, maybe even tears. But growth comes with loss. And sometimes the people we thought would walk with us forever were only meant to walk with us through one season. Here's a hard truth. Not everyone in your circle is in your corner. Some people are only there to watch, not to support. They study your every move, not to celebrate it, but to find a moment to criticize, compete, or pull you back. And they won't use knives. They'll use smiles, delayed claps, cold hugs, silent comparison. That's how quiet resentment works. It doesn't attack, it lingers. It suffocates, but you get to choose. You can keep trying to win them over, or you can choose yourself, your peace, your momentum, your truth, because self-respect begins where fake love ends. And once you stop chasing people's approval, you'll start attracting real connection. You'll start noticing the ones who genuinely smile when you win, the ones who show up when it's hard, the ones who don't compete but cheer. And once you've experienced that, you'll never settle for less again. The real ones don't drain you. They don't make you guess. They don't vanish when you rise. They match your energy. They celebrate your wins like they're their own. They're not threatened by your light, they're inspired by it. And that's the difference. That's the shift. Once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The way people treat your joy reveals everything. Pay attention. The next time you get good news, look around. Who smiles without hesitation? Who leans in, not away? Who claps first, not last? That's your tribe. That's your people. Everyone else is just background noise. If any of this made you pause, if you found yourself thinking of specific people, that's not a coincidence. That's clarity. Don't ignore it. Don't excuse it. Just take note and act accordingly. Because your future, it's too valuable to be shared with people who secretly hope you fail. Your dreams are too big to be surrounded by small minds. And your spirit, it deserves to breathe, not walk on eggshells. You are not here to shrink. You are not here to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You are here to grow, to expand, to rise. Let the quiet resentment speak for itself. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. Just keep moving, keep growing, keep shining, because real power isn't loud. Real confidence doesn't seek approval. Real peace, it walks away without bitterness and never looks back. And when you finally stop begging for love that doesn't feel like love, that's when the right kind of people find you. The ones who don't need you to be smaller to feel safe. The ones who don't flinch when you win. The ones who meet you at your highest and help you go even higher. This isn't about cutting people off with anger. It's about rising with grace. Quiet, strong, undeniable grace. Let your silence be your boundary. Let your energy speak for itself. And if anyone asks why you pulled back, why you got quieter, why you stopped sharing so much, just smile. Because some stories aren't meant to be defended. They're just meant to be left behind. You don't need their validation. You never did, you just needed the truth, and now you have it.